Okay, so you're going to be asked to graph this. So think strategically. What can I do to make graphing this easier on myself? Very good. Get y by itself. So to get y by itself, you can divide both sides by what? -8. Okay? Get y by itself. So, all right, so I'm going to rewrite this over. Just like this. Okay? Now, on your worksheet, you also had this idea. You're going to rewrite, see this side right here? You're going to rewrite this as two fractions. Okay? So first of all, -8 divided by -8 is 1. 1 times y is y. Now this becomes 4x divided by what? -8 minus 24 divided by what? -8. Okay? That's how you're going to write this. Now you also got to remember that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. A negative divided by negative is a positive. Okay? So, see where I have that 4 divided, well, first of all, 4x divided by -8 is going to be negative, right? But what is 4 divided by 8? 1/2. Good. So I'm going to ask you this. Then what is 4x divided by -8 going to equal then? -1/2 what? X. Okay, good. So it becomes y equals -1/2 x. Now, negative divided by negative is a positive. 24 divided by 8 is 3. So there's y by itself. Three is your y-intercept. Okay? So there are multiple ways you can do this. Probably what you're going to do is think about the way you normally did it. Use the t-table. That's one way. Use a t-table. And since my slope is a fraction, you're going to pick numbers that are divisible by what? Which is 2. 0 is always something you're going to use. Give me two more numbers. 2 and 4, 6, -4, -6, and so on, right? Okay. So when x is 0, I get y equals -1/2 times 0 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. So there's one of my points. When x is 2, I get y equals -1/2 times 2 plus 3. What's -1/2 times 2? -1. -1 plus 3 is 2. And then finally, for -2, y equals -1/2 times -2 plus 3. What's -1/2 times a -2? Now positive 2, positive 1. Positive 1. And what's 1 plus 3? 4. All right. And so I just graph this. 0, 3, 2, 2, and then -2, 4. All right, so there's the line. Okay. Now notice that when I got y by itself, you remember that was slope-intercept form, right? Mm-hmm. The slope is what here? -1/2. So since the slope is negative, the line should be falling. Right. Okay. All right. So you're going to see one like that where you're going to have to divide to get y by itself. Just be careful when you get to this point. You got to remember that positive divided by negative is a negative. A negative divided by negative is a positive. Okay? All right? Then the equations, there are two equations. There are two equations that you have to deal with. So I think on test 4, you want to look at the ones on test 4. It was this one here on test 4, that one here. So you can look at numbers 9 and 10. One problem is going to say write in slope-intercept form. The other is going to say write in standard form. And remember, standard form means no fractions, right? You have to clear the fractions. Now, the one in your test, there weren't any fractions to begin with. The one in your final, there is going to be a fraction. So let's kind of do one real quick just to remind you what to do. So let's suppose, so that's 20 points. One that looks like number 9 and one that looks like number 10. But let's suppose we had this. Find the equation of a line containing the points, and I'm making this up, -6, 2, and -1, -5. And hopefully it's a fraction. And it's going to say, write this in standard form. Write the answer in standard form. Write the equation in standard form. Okay? All right. So given that, what's the first step you have to do?
Label your point.
Okay, that's not the first step, but hey, you're going to do that. But why are you labeling the points though? Why? What's the purpose? Okay, good. The first thing you have to do is find the slope, because in both cases, number 9, number 10, and number 9, number 10, didn't you use the point slope form? Point slope form. Remember, point slope form. Y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And in order to use point slope form, you got to know the slope and a what?
And the point.
Point. I know 2 points. I just don't know the what? The slope. All right. So let's find the slope. So the slope,
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You don't have to remember the formula. I'll give you the formulas.
I was just about to ask you.
So it'd be that little sheet just like I gave you in the test 4. The little half page. So label these x1, y1, x2, y2. So what's y2? And you're subtracting y1, and what's y1? 2. Since I started with y2, I have to start with x2. What's x2? Subtract -6. Right. So the numerator, what's the -5 and the -2?
It would be a -6.
And the denominator is a -1 plus 6, which is what? 5. So there's my slope. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to use point slope form. So I know the slope, and now I'm going to put that into the point slope form. It does not matter which point we use. So which point do you want to use? First one? Okay, so we're going to use -6, 2. So there's your x1, there's your y1. So I get y minus y1, which is 2, equals the slope, which is -7/5 times x minus -6. Now that's where you want to rewrite x minus -6 as what? X plus 6. So I get y minus 2 equals -7/5 times x plus 6. Good? All right. Now, let's go ahead and distribute. So this is in point slope form. So I get y minus 2 equals -7/5 x. Now, what's a negative times a positive? And what's 7/5 times 6? 7/5 times 6. -42/5. Good. And then all you do now is get y by itself.
That's it.
But wait now, but remember, they do want the answer in what form though? Standard form. Standard form. So, well, let's get y by itself first, and then let's clear the fractions. All right, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Now use your calculator. You have access to a calculator. So that's going to be -7/5 x. And now on your calculator, figure out what -42/5 plus 2 is. What's that? -42/5 plus, that would be 10/5. So -32/5 in your calculator. Is that what y'all got? Okay? Now, what form do I have it in? Slope-intercept. Now, let's put it in remember, this is slope-intercept. Okay, now let's put it in standard form. So first of all, let's clear the fractions. We're going to multiply both sides by what? 5. So 5y equal, and this side by 5 as well. Okay, now distribute this 5, and remember the whole point of multiplying by 5 is to get rid of these denominators, make them 1s. So I got 5y equal, what's 5 times the negative 7/5 x? Negative 7x. What's 5 times the negative 32/5? Negative 32. And all you do now is bring all the variables to one side. So what's the next step? And so what's the answer?
7x plus 5y equals -3.
Yep, there it is. Okay. All right. So the one in your test, though, didn't have any fractions. That's why it was a little bit easier to deal with on your test. It didn't have fractions, but on your final it will. All right. Okay. Now, okay, let's look at the one that says divide a polynomial by monomial. You see the last one, that last bullet on that second page? And see where it says that divide a polynomial by monomial? That's an easy 10 points. But listen carefully though. To divide a polynomial by monomial. It'll look like this. It'll say divide. And it'll say negative 40 x, let's say, cubed. Yeah. So negative 40x cubed. Negative 40 x cubed plus 10x minus, let's say, 5. Divided by, so have this polynomial that's being divided by a monomial. And a monomial is how many terms? 1. And so let's say it is 4x. Okay? All right, now remember a while ago, I'm going to try and find where it was. Okay, right here. Okay, hold on, I'll remove it. Remember a while ago where it had this, you can think of this as a polynomial as well. A polynomial being divided by the monomial. See this? And I wrote in how many fractions? 2. That's the idea you're going to use here. So technically, when you did this, you did have a polynomial divided by a monomial. You wrote 2 fractions, just like this. That's what you're going to do here. So you do this one, you're going to say negative 40x cubed divided by what? 4x. Okay? Plus 10x divided by what? 4x. Minus 5 divided by what? 4x. First step. All right, you do that step, you get some points. So remember, you want to get as many points as you can each step. So it's very similar to the one we just did when we got y by itself. Now you're going to use the idea of divide like bases now. Okay? First of all, what's 40 divided by 4? 10. What's x cubed divided by x? X squared, right? So that is 10x squared. Plus, now 10 fourths, you got to reduce. What's 10 fourths reduced? Not 2/5. 5 over 2. But what's x divided by x? No, anything divided by itself is what? 1. So that's 5 over 2 times 1, right? Which is just what? 5 over 2. Okay? Now, can I do anything with this one? No. So just rewrite it. You can't reduce 5/4, and there's no x in the numerator to use the quotient rule. All right. So I could use a quotient rule with the first one and the second one, but I can't use it with the third one because there's no x in the numerator. So there's your 10 points, okay? I can only do one like this because we're running out of time. Now, in terms of the word problems, you remember we did some word problems where there are two of them, where we talked about complementary and supplementary. Okay, complementary are two angles whose sum is what? That's supplementary. Complementary, two angles whose sum is 90. Supplementary, two angles whose sum is 180. Okay, now they're going to tell you that though. In the word problem, it's going to say complementary angles are angles whose sum is what? 90. It will say that. You don't have to remember that. It will say it in the problem. Supplementary, two angles whose sum is 180. Okay? So let me try and find the one that was in your book that we did a long time ago, because that's one of those that's going to be in your final. So let me quickly find that one. It was in chapter 2, I think, with the word problem, the linear equations. Linear equation, no, that was no, chapter 2. Linear equations, I think, was chapter 9. Okay, so let's look at 9.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you would bring this. No, bring your probably
Okay, so let me. It is chapter 9. So let me try and find those word problems. Word problems in section 4, I think. Yeah. Okay. So. All right. Okay, so this is going to be a different version of number 40. So this is number 40 on page 663. All right, so it's going to first of all tell you that complementary angles are angles whose sum is what?
90 degrees.
Complementary 90 degrees, okay? Then it's going to say something like this. The larger angle, and I'm using the one that's in your book, but it's a different version of it. The larger angle is 3 degrees less than twice the smaller angle. The larger angle is 3 degrees less than twice the measure of the smaller angle. And you want to find the measure of each angle. So that's number 40 on that page. So find the measure of each angle. Okay. So what we this so I'm gonna have this written out for you like this. It'll be smaller angle, blank, larger angle, just like you did on the test. So the expressions. What would you let the smaller angle be? X. Okay. What would the larger angle be based on what the word says? 2x minus 3. Good, because remember the word's less than, you got to reverse. So 2x minus 3. And now you're going to set the equation. You use the fact that the two angles added up gives you what?
3x minus 3.
Yeah, but what's their sum? 90. So you just say x plus 2x minus 3 has to equal 90 complementary. Now, if it was supplementary, you'd say what? 180. You're going to solve. So let's solve this. You're going to say what? Okay, then what? Add 3. So 3x equal 93. So x equal 31. Okay. So remember, now you're gonna write your answer. So you're trying to find both angles, right? So you know the smaller angle. So you're going to say the smaller angle is 31 degrees. Right. And the larger angle, okay, so you're going to go here and you're going to plug and chug. So that's 2 times what? 31 minus 3. 62 minus 3, which is 59. So the larger angle is 59 degrees. Okay? All right. So I basically, if you look at the study guide, so there are 2 word problems. There are about 23 problems altogether. 6 of them multiple choice, and the multiple choice are 5 points each. And so the other 17 are about 10 points each. They're 10 points each. So look at test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. And then the new material that we just did, this one here is a multiple choice. We didn't have time to go over this. We did this, we did this, we did this. We did this one, divided polynomial by monomial. We didn't have time to talk about negative exponents. So those 2 problems, it's on your final. These 2. This one's multiple choice, this one's not.
The one at the top that you circled.
Yeah,
Right there, okay.
yeah. They talked about scientific notation. I didn't have time to go over that one, nor did I have time to go over the negative exponent idea. So, huh? Well, I'm not going to count it against you. Just leave it blank. I won't count it.
Did you make the final?
No,
Oh.
but they usually have those.
You're just going off the class.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. But they did tell us there are 23. They did tell us there are 23 problems in 6, and so in the past they've been 23 and 6. And most of the time, there's always something with scientific notation I didn't get a chance to go over. And they always have something about negative exponent, which I did go over. I didn't have time. Okay? All right. So there are 2 things we couldn't get to. Now, Saturday, I'll be in Cyprus on the 2nd floor from 9 to 11. Saturday from 9 to 11. If you have any questions, you may want to start studying now. Okay, look at the test, look at these things, go back over the notes we just did. Make sure you can do that.
What room are you going to be in?
Huh?
What room are you going to be in?
It's on the, no, I don't have an office. I'm not full-time. It's on the 2nd floor of Cyprus, in their little lobby, when you get off the elevator. Yeah. Yeah. Okay? Now, your final, you can either